With two top fantasy blue liners in the game going toe-to-toe, we got to do a who would you rather, Bouchard or Werenski on today's show.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is Thursday, my fantasy fanatics, and welcome back inside the lab to your daily 30-minute source for all things fantasy hockey. And don't forget those nightly betting breakdowns. It's a Locked On Fantasy Hockey podcast coming in red hot for a Thursday edition, my friends, where we're going to continue to cover all of the angles that you need to stack this fantasy paper, shouting out to everydayers who make us their first listen steal every single day, putting us as the #1 sports podcast network here on the Locked On Sports Podcast Network. I'm fired up for today's show. We're going to talk about the Oilers again, Steele, and connect it right to the Pittsburgh Penguins. There's fantasy angles to cover here. Stuart Skinner's name is in the news. Dubas is looking good, but a who would you rather between Bouchard and your boy Zach Werenski? Big time bets. So much to get to. I know the other night and the Oilers was upsetting. So I'm going to turn it over to you here because this angle has been covered. But is this team a pretender or a contender?
Look, they're a pretender. They are a pretender. And I don't care what anyone else says and how good Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl are. They cannot win a Stanley Cup, and they cannot be a contending Stanley Cup team with the team they have in place. And I don't know if it really comes down to, again, the top problem, if it being goaltending or if it's the blue line. I mean, Darnell Nurse looks lost out there. Evan Bouchard, we know, can be a liability on a nightly basis in the defensive zone at least. They don't have a structural defensive game. And I watched that third period, and I was blown away at how bad they are in front of their goaltender. And again, a lot of it should go on Tristan Jarry. Sometimes you just need your goaltender to make a save, make a stop, and it just isn't happening. All-time worst in Tristan Jarry's career in the 12 games he's played in Edmonton. .863 save percentage, 3.85 goals against average, minus 9.6 in goals saved above average. I mean, it doesn't get worse than that. Those are worse numbers than Stuart Skinner when he was in Edmonton. So I don't know if it's a goalie problem in Edmonton. I don't know if it's a defensive problem in Edmonton. This is not a Stanley Cup contending team, regardless of them going to the finals the two last seasons and still losing to the Florida Panthers. I mean, I'm sick of it. Obviously I'm a little bit more heated because of what transpired when it came to big
talk about it.
And them losing me a couple racks, couple G's there. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to Tristan Jarry and his fantasy value, he was dropped on my team last night. I can tell you that. I ended up picking up Jet Greaves, who's actually been really solid this year for the Columbus Blue Jackets.
There you go.
Tristan Jarry's gone. Connor is gone. I don't know who they're going to start when the playoffs come around, if they are in a playoff spot. And look, the NHL trade deadline is a few days away. If it were me, I'd be looking for another goaltender right now.
I think that is obviously a narrative that has been played out and well covered. The real story here, and I do have a little fantasy angle to be covered because I do still see a ton of value here, and that's obvious. It's just realistically, where does this team go from here? And you take a look at that performance against the Anaheim Ducks team that they might have to go right through in the first round. And that was a really big measuring stick performance from an Anaheim Ducks team that is 8-2-0 in their last 10 games. And the Edmonton Oilers have dropped some really ugly games over their last 4 and current losing streak. And I know that that's not always the be-all and end-all, but they lost to the Leafs 5-2. They lost to Calgary 4-3. They just got pumped 6-5 to this Ducks team that's sitting right there with them in the standings. I would say this, Deal. Separate that from the fantasy value because aside from the goaltending, you're still going to be able to attach yourself to some peripheral pieces. Jack Roslovic, for example, playing on the second line with Leon Draisaitl, has a goal last night. Steele, he's only owned at 30%, 6 on Yahoo, 30 on Fantrax. So you can still dig into the fantasy value. But when you look at how this has transpired and you look at this team and who they're going to have to go through, don't even start talking about the teams in the Central. this team just really is in tough. Then you add in all of the mileage on this core body of all these extra games over the last 2 postseason runs. They are in real tough. And I've heard this. I'll turn it back to you with this little tidbit. Was watching the guys on TSN this afternoon. They were talking about maybe Jordan Binnington being a play for the Edmonton Oilers. I don't even know if I'd feel confident in that whatsoever, but that is a spicy little tidbit.
It really is. And look, like I said, I if it were me, if I was the GM of the Edmonton Oilers, I'd be back on the goalie market after what I've seen in the 12 games from Tristan Jarry. It's just that bad. When it comes to fantasy value for the Edmonton Oilers, really outside of Jack Roslovic, and I still think that's a good streaming option. And actually, Matt Law had a really good game against the Anaheim Ducks too, a couple of points here and there. Outside of those two, there's nobody. Trent Frederick is not the guy that I knew that, again, I was kind of staying away from some of these players, but going into the season and the deal that he signed about, he could potentially be a contributing factor in fantasy. He's done nothing. Mangiapane, nothing. Podkolzin, even when he's in the top 6 forward group with Draisaitl or McDavid, it doesn't stick as much as you think it would. And that's been the problem over the years, is trying to find guys who can, stick with those two guys and be 100%. A consistent contributing factor. It just hasn't been the case. So I look at this team, it's hard to have McDavid and Draisaitl carry them every single season, especially when it comes around to the playoffs. Defensively, they are an embarrassment. Darnell Nurse, I don't know what he's doing out there. That has got to be the worst contract in the National Hockey League. They've got to figure something out. And they've got to figure something out fast, because with the amount of times Connor McDavid has lost over the last 3-4 years, now including the Olympics, Stanley Cup runs, I mean, he's becoming an all-time loser, in my opinion. And it just sucks to say, because he is one of the best hockey players in the game, but he just continuously loses.
I want to dive into that deeper on another day when we dedicate some more time to that, because the connection here is very clear from the Edmonton Oilers to the Pittsburgh Penguins. And Kyle Dubas, hat tip for not only getting chewed up in Toronto for obvious reasons, but for now some really nice asset management. And from what I'm reading, Steele, is they might even be looking to move Stuart Skinner before the deadline as well, and move him again while his value is still high. And I understand the last 2 games he's gotten pumped, 10 goals combined. But when you look at his last 10 games, 8-1-1 record, 906 save percentage, and he has looked very good at times. And look, this angle has been covered, and I'll give it back to you for after the break with your take here. In the postseason, this man has 4 shutouts over the last 2 seasons. And yeah, we know that he has had issues. He also is a goaltender that can make those big saves. Fantasy-wise, super frustrating. On the ice, though, how thin the goaltending market is, I wouldn't be surprised if there's teams kicking tires on this man, especially if he's been able to do this with a ragtag Pittsburgh group. Some team might be coming around sniffing Steele, and this guy just turned Tristan Jarry into Stuart Skinner, Sam Girard, and 2 seconds. There's fantasy angles to be covered here, and this Pittsburgh Penguins team is going to be an intriguing one to watch. Quiet pieces, yeah, secondary after Sid, but still serving value, and I'm excited to talk about it after the break.
Yeah, let's talk about it after the break, along with a who would you rather between Zach Werenski and the Edmonton Oilers defensive blue liner, Evan Bouchard.
Friday bets coming up as well. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel, where you're throwing down that loot on the NBA. If you ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person, FanDuel right now is giving you a chance to turn that dream into reality with the NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it goes down. Use a profit boost for any NBA future, and you're automatically entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right, flights, tickets, the whole experience. If you're looking at the board, thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock in. Not only can you get cash in the pocket, you can also get tickets to the finals. Visit FanDuel.com right now to get started. Use your profit boost on any NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA.
And thank you so much for making Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day, and for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you haven't already, you got to go check out the Everydayer Club. You'll get access to ad-free audio feed for Locked On Fantasy Hockey. And It's compatible with all major podcast app out there, Apple, Spotify, whatever you want to tune into. You also get members only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat just for listeners of this show. If you use code DEADLINE before the NHL trade deadline, you'll get the first month for free. It is for just $5 a month or $50 a year. It's a great place to meet people in the fantasy hockey community, as well as just talk about anything you want to when it comes to fantasy hockey or anything that's on your mind, especially for mock trades, big time bets, during games, after games. Great place to hang out. Again, go to lockedonfantasy.com, lockedonfantasyhockey.supercast.com, or you can check the link in the show notes to learn more about the Everydayer Club here on Locked On Podcast Network. Once again, thank you so much for all that love and all of that consistency when it comes to watching us. We really do appreciate it out there. Pittsburgh Penguins, neat and tidy work from Kyle Dubas. And I think in hindsight, again, it's easier said now than when things were transpiring in Toronto, but maybe we took him for granted at times. And what his, again, in the media in Toronto, he's going to be in the spotlight every single day, every single night. And yeah, I mean, he's done some neat and tidy work with the Pittsburgh Penguins so far, and trying to maneuver where they are at this stage of a lot of their players' careers, especially Malkin, Letang, and Sidney Crosby, of course, but trying to figure out Erik Karlsson too, actually trying to figure out what they're going to do and how the team was going to succeed this season. Obviously, for most of us, they've overachieved. We didn't think they would be at this spot. At least top 2 in the Metropolitan Division. I don't think a lot of us saw that coming, but again, couple of second-round picks. He's got Stuart Skinner. You get Sam Girard, who I think is a pretty decent streaming option from time to time. Obviously, it's been a little bit of a rough season for him. Only 40 games played, 12 points. Peripherals are way down this year, and that's coming from playing with the Colorado Avalanche. So I think maybe he gets a little bit more opportunity here with the Pittsburgh Penguins, even with Erik Karlsson and Chris Letang. I think he can move up and down from that first or second D pairing with Parker Wotherspoon, Ryan Shea as well. So I think there might be a little bit more opportunity in Pittsburgh, but obviously this is a deep cut streaming option for Sam Girard.
No doubt. And just very quickly before we move on, this is not a pretty looking roster with Raquel, Rust, Hayes, Shinnikov, Tommy Novak, Evgeny Malkin, Mantha, Justin Brazeau, Ben Kindle. Not jumping off the page, especially without the absolute glue and straw that stirs the drink in 87. That's all that needs to be said there. So I would not exactly be shocked if Sid's out for a month that this team starts to fall like a stone. You're not counting on Stuart Skinner all day. However, like we've said all the time, it's not always pretty. So stream options, if it's working. Avery Hayes, if you want to try and get risky still. You saw me out there adding him myself. Maybe this kid continues to get hot. Maybe the team plays well like they've done all year. However, this is a good one. I love the who would you rathers between you and I because it offers up an angle when you're taking a look, especially at blue liners. This is a close one. But what do you do with players? Zach Werenski, Evan Bouchard, who would you rather? Over to you. I've got 2 angles I'm going to hammer home here. I know what you're going to talk about. This is a close one, but why would you go Werenski over Evan Bouchard?
Yeah, it is close. And I believe going into the season, we had them both ranked in the top 25, like maybe a couple of picks away from each other, give or take. Really close in the preseason. They're still really close at where they currently are. Evan Bouchard currently ranked 19th. Zach Werenski currently ranked 40th overall in our, at least in our fantasy hockey league. So again, it's still pretty close. They're both top 40 at least. I'm going with Zach Werenski. If this was 2 years ago, it would be Evan Bouchard. And it solely comes down to the durability of Evan Bouchard. I don't think he's missed a single game in the last 5 years when I look at his statistics. Maybe 1 or 2. Yeah, 1 or 2 games so far in the last 5 years. Like, he's durable. He's a point producer. For a defenseman, he scores a lot of goals. Like, there's a lot to love with Evan Bouchard, and I'm not even going to get into it defensively because really it doesn't matter when it comes to fantasy hockey. Zach Werenski, when I look at these two guys, number one, Zach Werenski is the engine in Columbus. Evan Bouchard isn't. He gets to play with Connor McDavid. He gets to play with Leon Draisaitl. And I know that's going to be a huge factor in why you take him over Zach Werenski. But when I look at the structure of the team, obviously both of them quarterback the first power play unit. They play heavy minutes. Zach Werenski actually plays 2.5 more minutes of average ice time from Evan Bouchard. He plays some heavy minutes. He shoots way more pucks than him. And again, there's just no sharing. The offense runs through Zach Werenski. And again, for me, it also comes down to what is transpiring right now between the two. If I had a 30% power play as well, especially with those two guys and Connor McDavid and Draisaitl, that's a huge factor, and obviously why you would want to go with Evan Bouchard. I look at the teammates around Zach Werenski. I mean, I look at the teammates from the Columbus Blue Jackets he's playing with. Like, yeah, you're getting some good season from Kirill Marchenko, who hasn't hit his prime yet, 25 years old, 46 points. Charlie Coyle having a resurgence of a season, 42 points in 56 games. Disappointing from Fantilli. Hasn't taken that next step in the spotlight. Which we expect him to do over the next couple of years. He's still 21 years old. Voronkov, 32 points. Still expect a little bit more from him. Kent Johnson has just not done his job as well. When these guys get going and they get more confidence and they kind of start building around, adding more pieces, I believe they will be maybe not a prime destination to go to, but they are going to build a contending team over the next couple of years built around Zach Werenski and those two young guys I just mentioned, in Marchenko and Fantilli. When they become point-per-game players, you're going to want Zach Werenski over an Evan Bouchard. And yeah, obviously it's very close. I think goal scoring is in favor of Zach Werenski. I think point production right now, 62 points in 52 games. He's on pace for a career high, even though he's missed 5 games. I really like Zach Werenski's work. It's tight and needy.
It's a fair take where you're trying to look at in the future of Columbus. There are so many exciting young pieces in that system. And, I've come on here and spoken about that. So I like it. I do, though, right now see it clearly in Evan Bouchard's favor. You mentioned it, the power play numbers, his durability. And also, and I know this isn't a fantasy take, and I understand that a couple of deep runs on the back of McDavid and Leon Draisaitl maybe drown out how good this man was in the postseason as well, Steele. He has 81 points in 75 career postseason games. He has gotten it done at the big level as well. And I understand during those times, and during the regular season, he has some really bad lapses in judgment and defensive plays, and it looks like he's asleep out there. But I think this might be the biggest clear case of separating what his impact is on his team from fantasy, because all day I would take Zach Werenski. I totally agree with you there in his ability to change games. But in terms of fantasy, I'm going Evan Bouchard all day. I mentioned the durability, the Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl angle, and his ability to put up in the clutch. What is weird, though, talking about how eerily similar their numbers are this year, and actually takeaway numbers this year, 88 giveaways for Bouchard and 29 takeaways, 83 giveaways for Werenski and 25 takeaways. So not a fantasy angle, but talking about confidence and lacks in defensive judgment, both have been pretty close. I'm going to go Evan Bouchard on a who would you rather for this one.
Yeah, it's very close. And last point from my side of things, I just think, again, when you compare the two, Evan Bouchard, I look at consistency versus streakiness. And obviously, Evan Bouchard, he can go nuclear for 2 to 3 weeks, which we've seen him do this year. But that coincided with Connor McDavid's nuclear explosion of his 18-game point streak, having 34 points in that time. Evan Bouchard was doing the exact same thing around that time. And then, again, beginning of the season, he was dead quiet up until that point. I think Zach Werenski is a little bit more predictable. He's easier to build around, less volatile in head-to-head playoffs as well. I think he's just a lock every single night. But again, I love these who would you rathers because we're splitting hairs here, and it just creates conversation. It creates a nice debate. Either way, you're going to love your defenseman. But again, it comes down to preference. It comes down to what you're looking to build on your fantasy hockey team. And again, like I said, if this was 2 years ago, I'm taking Evan Bouchard just because of the durability. We knew Zach Werenski had some injury problems. At least the last 2 years, he's been healthy for the most part. He's been a point-per-game player. He's one of the top scoring defensemen over the last couple of seasons as well. And I think they're building something really nice in Columbus.
And maybe we're tainted by, or maybe I am, by a 7-game win streak for the Columbus Blue Jackets right now and a 4-game ugly losing streak for this Edmonton Oilers group. So there's that to consider. We've spoken a lot about the Oilers on today's show. I've got bets coming up, Steele. I hope you're ready to get this paper. I know Edmonton, that was an upsetting situation, but let's bounce back.
Yes, we'll bounce back in a big way here with big-time bets. But first, this episode is brought to you by Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is the job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Once again, thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to smash the subscribe button, the follow button. Leave a 5-star review for your boys, Flip Livingstone and Steel Road. We really do appreciate all the love and support you show us Sunday through Thursday, when you can typically find our episodes this week, Monday through Friday. Obviously, we'll continue to bring you the heat going into the fantasy hockey playoffs, coming a week or two away for most of us out there. 4 games on the schedule for Friday. Sorry, we're doing Thursday. Wow. Friday. That's actually 4 games on the schedule for Friday.
Yes,
I don't know about you, Flip. I'll throw it to you first, but I'm not a huge fan of these matchups. No. When it came to money lines, at least, I think there's some really good player props we can dig into. So I actually have 4 bets, all of them being player props coming from 2 games. But I want to hear from you, my friend, first, because I'm still a little bit ticked off from what happened last night. And I need you to kind of reel me in here a little bit.
Well, I'll do my best. Winnipeg at Anaheim. The head-to-head here is not where I'm usually we like to bring that up as an angle we'll consider. 7-2-1 for the Winnipeg Jets against the Anaheim Ducks. However, look closer at the last 3 previous meeting this season. The Winnipeg Jets got dusted 4-1 at the hands of the Ducks. The game before that, very close, 2-1. And the previous one, Anaheim actually took. This is a spot where I think the Anaheim Ducks, off of that big win against Edmonton, Winnipeg on the road. I like the Ducks here big time on the money line steal. And I would also pair it with my favorite pick of the night. Before I turn it back over to you, is Cutter Gauthier 3+ shots on net. I'd even go 4+ shots on net. This kid is a shooter. And over his last 12 games, he's got 6 goals, 4 assists for 10 points. He's got a couple of game-winning goals, and he's got 50 shots on net over that span. I believe he's gone 3+ shots in all but 1 game over that span. So you might have to go up to 4+ shots, but I'm okay with that. Josh Morrissey, the shot blocking leader on the Winnipeg Jets, is out. They are going to miss him on the back end for more than just offense. I like Cutter Gauthier, 3 or 4+ shots on net, along with the Ducks. And just to wrap it up, Vegas on the money line into Washington. I think this is a good spot for Vegas. All of their big guns returning.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably go Vegas as well. Getting Mark Stone, Mitch Marner, Jack Eichel, Noah Hanifin, Shea Theodore. I like all those guys returning, and they were able to somehow, ruin Artemi Panarin's ruin his debut with the LA Kings. So I don't mind that one on the money line. I'm not feeling the other one, so I'm sticking with the player props. I'm right there with you. Cutter Gauthier, 3+ shots in this game. He is 3rd in the NHL for shots on goal this season, with 211. Only behind Connor McDavid and Nathan McKinnon. So he shoots the puck. He scores a lot too. He's done a fantastic job this season for the Anaheim Ducks, 3+ shots. I'm also going with Kyle Connor, 3+ shots. I think he was really ticked off after not missing out on the gold medal game, even though he won and, his country won. And we saw that against the Vancouver Canucks. 1 goal, buries it. I believe he also had 4 shots in that game against Vancouver. I think the top shooters for both this team, for both Anaheim and Winnipeg, are going to be after it once again here. Kyle Connor also top 10 in shots on goal this goal this season. So 3+ shots from him, 3+ shots from Cutter Gauthier. So I'm a little bit of a same game parlay here, and also I'm looking at the Utah Minnesota game. Also Matt Bolton, 3+ shots. Dylan Guenther, 3+ shots. Dylan Guenther had a great game against the Colorado Avalanche. He had 2 goals. I believe he had 6 shots in that game, actually. Let me pull that up just to make sure the numbers are correct. Matt Boldy, though, I think he shoots the puck a ton as well. I think these are 2 teams that play fast against each other. Dylan Guenther had 3+ shots against the Colorado Avalanche, but in the 4 games prior to that, he was averaging 4+ shots. So
Love it.
I like Dylan Guenther 3. Kirill Kaprizov is going to be hopefully passing the puck to Boldy a lot here. So I'm loving the same game parlays from those 2 matchups. Boldy, Gauthier, Connor, Guenther, all 3+ shots in these matchups.
You've been red hot with your prop picks, so I'm following suit. Love the trifecta of triples. Let's get after it. Big week ahead. Fantasy playoffs on the horizon. We got your back.
And thank you so much for making Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. You know what it is. Hit that subscribe button, the follow button, so you get all of the latest episodes. Follow us on X at LO_fantasy NHL. Also follow us on TikTok, Instagram. We're posting reels. We're posting a lot of hot content up there as well. We really do appreciate everywhere you tune in. It means the world to Flip and I, and we'll see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.